So hi, my name is Kelvin Frisquet. I am the higher education project manager for the SHIFT project, and I'm independent consultant. I'm the author of two influential reports regarding the integration of socioecological issues into management and finance curricula, published at the end of 2022, entitled Climate Sub Business and Climate Sub Finance. And regarding the SHIFT project, it's a French think tank advocating the shift to a post-carbon economy. It was founded about 10 years ago. And our framework for understanding the ecological transition is really the dual carbon constraint. So it means this is characterized downstream by climate change resulting from greenhouse gas emissions, and upstream by the depletion of fossil fuel resources. And the SHIFT project works on numerous subjects, like, for instance, decarbonizing the digital sector, Europe's gas supply, territorial resilience, and so on. And of course, we are working on higher education. It's by and large, it would be the same in our definition, because when we are talking about socio-ecological issues, we are really talking about the ecological issues, which we define as like global warming, biodiversity collapse, resources depletion, and their impact on the social dimension of our society. So really, it's really linked together in a systemic way. So it's really important for us to have all this in mind when we talk about socio-ecological issues. Yeah, actually, the SHIFT project started working on higher education in 2018 and has published several notes and 4 reports on the subject. And our main focus is really on the integration of socio-ecological issues in the curricula. So we are not talking about decarbonizing, for instance, buildings or like research and etc. It's really about the content being taught to students. So our first report was published in 2018, and it really identified deficiency in addressing socio-ecological issues in higher education in France. So for instance, and then the following report, so really try to address this topic and propose the recommendation and tools for higher education in engineering, management, and finance, so that all students, all graduates are trained in socio-ecological issues. So it's really key for us. And when we work on these topics, our main approach is really to work based on extensive consultation with field actors. So we work with professionals from higher education, research, and also professionals from the business world or engineering world, depending on the report. It's really important to us. And when we work, we also have partners, which are higher education institutions, companies, and institutional bodies. So really by doing this, we try to mobilize a community around this report, a community of actors who want things to change. And then based on this report and on this community, we really go and lobby economic and political decision maker like higher education ministry, business schools, universities, accreditation bodies or rankings. And because all of them has a role to play in ecological issues integration in curricula. Well, as you know, human activities are the cause of major imbalances in the Earth system. We talked about global warming, biodiversity collapse, and depletion of resources, and limiting the social and ecological consequences of these activities in a constrained world, because we have a limited world with less and less resources, including fossil fuels resources, it requires a profound transformation, a major shift of our social models, economical models. And these transformations can really happen, or can only happen, with a population that is not only aware of these topics, but also educated. So it means that as a professional, as a citizen, as an elected officials, voters, and etc., all the population has a role to play in this transformation. It's not just about training for so-called green jobs. Our belief is that everybody is involved in this transformation at different degrees, but all professionals are concerned. And also, it's not just about raising awareness about the topic, because like it's been done for a while, and of course it's still required to raise awareness. But we've really focused on training people to make this transition happen. Professionals really need skills and competencies, and this is where higher education has really a role to play. But in France currently, and around the world, there is an awareness and there are dynamics regarding this change. There are some students as organizations that are mobilized on the topic. There are institutions that are creating seminars, courses, programs. But really, what we see happening is really not enough to educate all graduates, all students. We really need to transform all courses, all programs. If I take the example of France, because we really study what's happening in France. In 2019, we did a research and we found that 76% of programs did not offer any courses addressing climate energy issues for their students. And when we look, for instance, at management programs, it's even lower. It's only 6% of management programs that address climate energy issues in mandatory courses. So one might think that things have changed since 2019. So in 2022, last year, we reviewed the main finance programs in France. We studied 77 higher education institutions in France, business schools, universities, engineering schools, are also part of the finance training, and for a total of 1,400 unique training paths. And what we found out is that only 5% of finance programs in France incorporate ecological issues in 2022, even though Paris Agreement is a Paris Agreement signed in 2015. So what we see is there is a lot of sensibilization, some courses of sustainable finance, for instance, some specialized curricula, but the core trainings remain by and large the same. And most finance students do not get a proper training on this topic. Yeah, it's a very complex system because, of course, the top management of higher education institutions has a major role to play, but it's not alone in the middle of nowhere. There are plenty of other actors who are who have a role to play. It's really a systemic way of seeing things. Rankings, as I mentioned, accreditations, the state, companies, certifications, all of them have a role to play, and we have recommendations for all of them. So if I had any piece of advice for people who are working in higher education institutions, the way they can act and make things move, I would say the first thing is to demonstrate. One level is to demonstrate how sustainability is really aligned with institutions' mission, vision, and values. It's a powerful level. They should also highlight examples of institutions that have successfully implemented sustainability initiatives. And there are more and more. So there are more and more examples about that. And they can also engage with a diverse group of stakeholders, such as faculty, staff, students, but also alumni and companies that have an interest in this topic. And more companies are looking for people who are really trained in these topics. So it's very important for them to voice their concern about this topic. Of course, there is also a student demand. And also, one last thing I would say is not to underestimate the importance of training, for instance, the executive committee and boards of the higher education institution. Because when we talk about ecological issues, everybody has the feeling that he knows about ecology. And so people don't really move on this topic, but very few are really aware of the emergency and level of questioning of our social and economic models it implies. So it's why training these executives is really important, because it's the only way that they realize the importance of the topics and put the energy and the resources to make things change in their institution. Yeah, we are working we have a project regarding continuous education, which is in the pipe, which is going to be launched in a very short time. We are currently looking for financing in this project. So if anybody is interested, so let's get in touch, I would say. But my hope, I would say, is that, of course, that higher education officials around the world are much more aware about these topics, are much more aware of the emergency and the importance of training, and not only raising awareness, but really training students and also professionals about that, because it's not, as I said, only initial education, it's also continuous education, which is concerned about this topic. And of course, in France, I'd say the higher education ministry has put forward a very ambitious program where he wants that all higher education students being trained to these topics. But I'd say for now, it's just like an ambition. There is no money on the table. There is no means mobilized on this topic. And this change doesn't happen by itself. It needs like to hire pedagogical engineers. It needs to for teachers and professors to be trained on this topic and to have time to change their courses. So it doesn't happen like magic. So my hope is that soon the higher education ministry in France will put forward like an envelope with money to help higher education institutions to move forward on this topic.